Yeah, so just taking this moment, gently moving within, and we begin by taking a nice deep conscious breath together. And on the exhale, simply tuning into the frequency of gratitude. And how grateful I am to know that there is one power and one presence, God, Buddha nature, source, love, light. And I know this source, this energy, this truth is at the core of my being and the core of each and every being on this call, on this planet and beyond, knowing that there is one power and one presence, and that we are each a perfect emanation of this power. And because we know this, we also know our time together this afternoon is blessed. Every word, every note, every glance, every thought, every feeling is a perfect expression of the one power and the one presence. And so as we move into this service, we move into this service with gratitude, grateful for this knowing and grateful to know that in the realm of spirit, it's already done. So we simply release this, we let it go, we let it be, and so it is.
So it is. Thank you, TJ. And I'm going to spotlight you, Margot, and I'm going to share the lyric slide.
Higher than the mountains that I face, stronger than the power of the grave, and it's constant through the trials and the change. One thing remains, one thing remains. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love, your love. On and on and on and on it goes. It overwhelms and satisfies my soul. And I never, ever have to be afraid. 'Cause one thing remains. One thing remains. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never gives up, no, no. Your love, your love, your love, your love, your love. Here we go. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never gives up, never gives up. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love, your love, your love.
Love that song. Okay, I want to take the spotlight back for our meditation. So let's go within for a moment. And maybe before you go within, I always like us to kind of savor. And I talked a few years about savoring, thinking about, whenever you see a beautiful sunset, what do you do as you savor it? You just take it in. And so thinking of all those things that we savor, let's just take a deep breath. Closing your eyes if you're comfortable. Relaxing your shoulders, your neck. Feeling an appreciation for everything in the room that you're sitting in. Feeling an appreciation for all those called to this Zoom room today. I'm thinking about savoring this moment, savoring the music, savoring the message. I'm thinking about how I always look back to 10 to 20 years ago saying, ah, those were the times. Those were the good old days. And no matter what's happening in the world, the memories that we create right now, we can look at these memories, we can look at this time right here being part of these are those times. So with a deep consciousness changing gratitude, and gratitude for nothing, as Michael Beckwith would say. It's capturing that feeling and just letting it wash over our bodies. Knowing that healing is going on. So we allow it. Knowing that wisdom is going on. So we hear it. Knowing that abundance is happening in all forms, so we express it. And we invite it. As we rest into the silence of this gratitude for it all for just a minute or so. Taking a deep breath together. I'm so grateful for TJ Woodward, Reverend, author, business leader, so many things. TJ, you could tell us all those things during your talk if you'd like. And Margot Leduc, I'm so grateful for you, and I'm grateful for every person here and everything here and the consciousness in this room. And so it is. And Marty, I'm going to spotlight you for today's readings.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today's reading is from the Unity Daily Word. My serenity comes from within. Searching outside myself for places, people, and practices I think will bring me peace may leave me at the mercy of changing relationships and circumstances. The greatest source of peace and contentment is already mine. It is my divine nature, the Christ within. Like a well that can never run dry, I return in prayer again and again to feel the peace of God and claim it as my own. I am serene. While I am awake to the world and its challenges, I am not derailed by another's sour mood, disappointing outcomes, or conflicts large and small. The peace of God is mine to live and mine to share. I bless the world with my serenity, and so it is. And please join me in our opening affirmation. There is only one power and one presence active in the universe and in my life, God in everything and everyone, the infinite source of love, abundance, harmony, wholeness, intelligence, and joy is expressing as me.
Thank you so much, Marty. And from the Southland, we welcome TJ Woodward, giving you a warm Zoom welcome, my friend.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you for that incredible reading. David, thank you for your meditation. Margot, for the music. I feel so open and receptive to spirit's guidance or to spirit guidance, we could say. And what I'm talking with you about this afternoon is a process or a practice that has changed my life. And I call it living in the question. Another way we could frame it is the consciousness of curiosity. And I want to start by setting the groundwork, which any of us who have been in New Thought, ancient teaching wisdom, teachings has known, and that is the foundation of our life is source, that we come into the world as a perfect expression, a perfect emanation of the one power and the one presence. And the reason I start with that is as we lean into that and understand that we came into the world as a spark of this divinity, we also might ask the question, if that is true, and we look at a beautiful infant and we see the divine nature that they are, or we have these glimpses, these moments, whether that's in meditation or just a moment of feeling love for a child or a pet or a partner, or just a beautiful sunset, as David talked about, that we savor that and we have this moment where we remember who and what we really are. Or as grammatically incorrect as it is to say it this way, who and what we really be. Because it's the beingness, that moment where we forget the programming for just an instantaneous flash of insight. I know who and what I am. I had that experience when I walked into my first Unity in 1988. The music, the message, and Margot, as we were talking about before the service started, the combination of the music and the message touched my heart in a way that felt like coming home. That is really what we're talking about as the experience of reality, a great remembering that love is who and what we are, that source is who and what we are, that God essence, Buddha nature, whatever word we use for this power, the truth is that is who and what we are, and that we are not only an expression of that, but that is actually the very beingness of our true nature. And then, as Rumi said, our job is not to seek for love, but look at the barriers we've put on top of that. That's a paraphrase. But if it's true that love is who and what we are, then there's no reason to seek that love. Now, we're gonna lean into that a little bit because that reading inspired something within me, that profound reading from the Daily Word that says it really isn't about the conditions of the world, and at the same time, it's not about the conditions of the world. So what do I mean? I'm gonna go to Jesus, who is said to have said that to be in the world but not of the world is perhaps, and now I'm going to paraphrase it or put it in my own language, or perhaps 21st century language, to understand that not just cognitively, yes, I'm here in the world, but I'm not going to be of the world. That might be a really nice idea or a really nice concept. What does it mean to actually live that? To actually live that is to have that moment where I understand love is who I am, source is who I am. I'm not the programming that my mind believes that I am. And in those moments where I have that flash of insight, I say, oh my gosh, I am here to be that love and to be that light in the world. I can stand in the midst of anything happening, my own illness, someone else's illness, the death of someone, a divorce, a bankruptcy, an addiction, the polarization that we see in our world, and I can stand in a greater reality. But the key is not pretending like something's not happening, but to meet what's happening with the consciousness of curiosity. If you look at a little child, there's that certain age or stage, and I know all of us have had children in our life, and I think it's like 2 or 3, maybe 4 years old. What do? They ask why about everything. Well, why? 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 We are naturally curious, and something happens for most of us, and I don't know exactly what it is, but my sense is we get taught to lose touch with who and what we really are, and we start believing on some level that life is about finding answers. So that curiosity that's innate in the human experience, a spiritual being, a pre-programmed human, and I talk about this a lot, but I'm going to keep saying it, and maybe I'm going to keep saying it until I wake up one day and say, oh, now I know what I mean. That happens a lot because I have these flashes of insight, like we all do, this divine idea. It's not coming from my mind or my thought or my experience even. It's just a flash of insight. And what I've been with lately is to look at a pre-programmed human, 2, 3, or 4 years old, and look at what is innate in that child. And many of us have lost touch with that, and we start to believe we are programming, and then we go to therapy, or we come to a spiritual community, or we get into recovery, or we, do yoga so that we can do what? Be more present. A 2-year-old or a 3-year-old is automatically that. I need to learn to feel my feelings more. We all know a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old naturally feels their feelings. And if we let them, they will express that feeling very boldly. And then once they have allowed that feeling to actually move through them, they return to their natural state, which is joy. So yes, I want to be more present and open. I want to be more loving. I want to be able to connect with people more. I want to be able to feel my feelings. All of that is innate in the human experience. And yet some of us say things like, and I just said it, I need to learn to be. And the truth is, I need to unlearn all the programming that I have been taught so that I can come back to what it means to be naturally human, which is to be in a state of curiosity. And that's why the Buddhists call it beginner's mind. Let me meet each situation through the lens of curiosity rather than I think I know or I think I don't know, and therefore I need to find the right teacher who has the answer, the right book who has the answer, the right spiritual community so that I can find the answer. So living in the question is actually profoundly simple. And there are a few different ways that we can use it in our life. But I want to, before I even get back into that, I want to just set the framework. Curiosity expands. Judgment, or I think I know, which is kind of the same thing. I think I know this. As soon as I think I know, then it collapses in on that idea. Quantum mechanics is now measuring this. New thought teachings, which really aren't new thought teachings, but in the late 1800s, they were profound teachings that came into our consciousness that told us that how we see something affects the way we experience it, or that we can actually change reality based on what we're calling something. We might say thoughts held in mind create after their kind, and that is true. There's something even greater, and we talk about this a lot, and that is vibration or frequency. When I understand that love is who and what I am, when I remember what a 2-year-old naturally experiences, and yes, that is natural for me as well, that is the place where spirit and humanity, or the human experience and the spiritual experience, meet. In other words, to be truly human is also to be truly spiritual. They're really one and the same. Before we get programmed to believe things like, Well, because of the color of my skin, I'm supposed to act this way. Because of my age, I'm supposed to act this way. Because of my gender, I'm supposed to act this way. Our family is from this particular socioeconomic status, so I need to act this way. And so much of it is unspoken. Most of what we absorb and decide about ourselves isn't even necessarily something someone told us. We have an experience, we create a meaning about the experience, and then we decide and absorb something about that experience, and it gets concretized in our unconsciousness, our unconscious, and we call it reality. And at that point, we tune into the frequency of limitation rather than infinite possibility. We tune into the frequency of, I have to find an answer in order to be free, or once I get this, I will be happy. So we have all these ideas about ourselves that are creating what we call reality. And if we all sit down with one another, those of us who have been in unity or any other kind of metaphysical teaching for any amount of time, we will say, well, of course we create our reality based on thoughts. And then if we say, well, tell me your opinion about this, that, or the other, well, that's actually happening in the world. How can you pretend that it's not? And so I have been saying recently, New Thought, Ancient Wisdom teachings are inconvenient. What do I mean by that? Ignorance is bliss on some level. I remember when I used to think the world was just happening. The world was happening, and honestly, at that point in my life, I thought the world was happening to me, and I didn't think I could affect the world in any way, and I certainly didn't understand that what was happening was an outpicturing of my level of consciousness, or an outpicturing of my core false beliefs or my ideas I have about myself, or an outpicturing of the infinite source energy that is at the core of my being. And so in some ways it becomes profoundly simple if it's true that many of us, and I dare say most of us, have probably been taught that answers are important and we need to find the correct answers. We get programmed in school from a very early age, and I know the educational system is changing a lot since I was in school, in particular like grade school, but we were not taught, let's be curious about that together. Let's sit down and have a discussion about all the different possibilities that might exist in this one question. No, we were told, here's the right answer, here's the wrong answer, and if you give the wrong answer, you get this thing called an F, and then you get to wear that on, I'm telling my own story, right? You wear an F on your forehead, or a C minus, or a B plus, and I can never quite measure up until I can be perfect and do it perfectly. And the way that shows up for many of us, and it certainly did for me, is once I figure it out, then I can be free. Once I have the right answers, then I can be free. So that was a long intro to the practice of living in the question. I wanted to give the long intro because we have to start with a basic understanding that we create reality based on our level of consciousness, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of curiosity. We wouldn't say it's better to be 73 years old than it is to be 18 or to be 4. They're all simply different levels of growth. We wouldn't want to force a 4-year-old or expect a 4-year-old to have the same wisdom or understanding of someone who's been on the planet for 57 years. They're just different stages of development. Consciousness is the same. It's not that one is a lower level or a worse level. It's what does it create when I entertain or live in this level? So if you want, like I know each of us wants at our core, to have more love, to have more connection, to have more compassion, to live in more curiosity, to be able to allow myself to feel, to not be a victim of what's happening in the world, but to be an impartial observer. And through that observation, I can actually make a difference in the world. If we want that, how do we do it? So if we want to expand our consciousness, and consciousness in this context of what I'm saying is my ability to perceive. My good friend Reverend Maureen Bass, she used to be the minister at Unity San Francisco. She just would draw. She would go up to the whiteboard and just draw a bunch of dots, draw a bunch of dots, 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 dots. It looked like stars, right? And then she would draw a circle around like 7 dots. And she would say, this is what human consciousness is. Even though there are an infinite number of dots spreading in all directions, I can only see these 7 because I've put this circle around it. The way we grow in consciousness is by exploring through curiosity or asking questions, and then we expand a bit. And then we can see 12 dots where there were only 7. Isn't this wonderful? We might even be at one phase of our development saying, look at those 5 extra dots I created. I'm so powerful. Then we practice spirituality more. We spend time in the silence. We question every point of view. We do this practice, which I promise I'm going to share with you, called living in the question. And we expand, and suddenly we see 28 dots. Wow. I used to only be able to see the world in this one way. And I'm understanding now that it's not based on the world, it's based on my perception of it. And that as I expand my conscious awareness, I can start to actually choose. And then I expand even more and I say there's 280 dots. And then at one point, we have the experience of understanding there are an infinite number of dots. And those dots represent many different things. We can use them to represent possibilities. We can use them to represent abundance. We can use them to represent love. So if we want more love and abundance and connection in our lives, the way we do that is we understand first that we are the ones who have that circle. We have drawn that circle in some way, or maybe our 3rd grade teacher taught us back in my day, we got slapped with a ruler if we didn't do something right. So, oh, I better fall into alignment and do it just a certain way. And then I have this idea about the world. And yes, we absorb ideas about the world from our parents, who they did from their parents and their parents and their parents. So we have like this generation, these generational concepts, because if we're born in a certain state, we might have a certain group of ideas that we've been told. But now, and this is the great news, and this is the inconvenient news, I am responsible for my own circle. No one else. I understand now no one else can actually change that circle. Of course, people can affect it. The greatest gift of spiritual community is that we can come together and say, David, how many dots are you seeing today? And you might say, well, I don't even know how many dots. There's so many dots. Life is so beautiful. And then we can support one another in questioning the circle, not the dots. I'm hoping this metaphor makes sense to you. So if we want to expand our consciousness, and now I'm finally going to get to living in the question and what it is a profoundly simple process that I have used for years, and you can use it in many different ways, but you simply take open-ended questions. What are open-ended questions? We all know this. They can't be answered with yes or no. Open-ended questions usually start with, or maybe always start with who, what, where, when, how. I actually, even though I said that, the 2-year-old or the 3-year-old ask why all the time, why, I prefer to not use why questions, because in some way, why questions are like, why does this keep happening? Why do I keep experiencing this? Where questions like who, what, where, when, and how start to expand this circle that we may or may not be aware of that we've created. How am I seeing the world? What would I like to experience more today? So a couple of different ways we can use living in the question process is, one, you can choose a question every morning. This is a practice I've used for quite some time. Choose a question. I like to say, if I can't think of an open-ended question, always just ask what else is possible. You might ask questions like, who am I going to encounter today that's going to make me experience more love? How am I going to create even more abundance in my life? What must I release in order to feel more expanded today? So you can choose a question, maybe you write it down. Now we have these devices called phones. You can put your question in your phone and you can refer to it throughout the day. So that's one way. You can also take it into a meditation. And I love this. 5 minutes on the clock, 10 minutes on the clock. I take a question into the meditation and I simply ask myself the question over and over and over again. This is called contemplative meditation. Questions that expand rather than constrict, right? So questions like, what else is possible here? Who do I want to meet today? What is love? Who am I? Who am I beyond the programming? What is human connection? Who do I want to connect with today? So we can set the timer and we can just spend our 5 minutes or our 10 minutes simply asking ourselves the question over and over again. If you're more extroverted like I, and you like processes with other people, you can do this with a friend. It's really fun. Some people think it feels really awkward in the beginning, but it becomes a really beautiful thing if I'm willing to lean in. You set the timer for 3 minutes, and you have a person who's going to ask the question, and the other person is going to answer. And maybe the question is, who are you? And so, like if David and I were doing this, David would be the asker, and he would say, who are you? And I would answer with a word or a sentence. I'm TJ. Who are you? I am a speaker. Who are you? I'm a spiritual being. Who are you? I'm a child of the universe. And you just ask for 3 minutes over and over again. Then you can change partners. Then I would ask, David would answer. Come up with a question that you want to be in to expand consciousness. So in some ways, it's profoundly simple. It's a simple understanding that if I want to grow and change, then changing those dots, seeing more, changing that circle around those dots, expanding that, being curious. What else is possible here? Who have I come here to be? What is mine to do in this community? Who do I want to connect with today? Who's in my heart that I want to reach out to today? What is love anyway? So living in the question is actually profoundly simple. It allows us to take that programming that we've had and we start to expand. Because again, a reminder, the spiritual journey is not a journey of an outward search or searching for answers. It's an inward discovery of remembering that which is already within us. And as we do this practice and as we live this more and more, and these unity principles of I am a spark of divinity, and the way I perceive myself actually creates reality, that yes, we're moving into this new era. It's true that thoughts create reality, but if it's true that thoughts create reality, how do I change the thought? Maybe that's a great question to live in for a while. And maybe an even more important question that I would ask is not how do I change the thought, but what other thought can I focus on today? Because some of you might have lived through an era, or maybe you're in an era. I was in this spiritual community in the 90s where we would say, cancel, cancel. If anyone said anything that seemed to be negative or might cause the universe to, the cosmic 2x4. How many people have heard of the cosmic 2x4? It's just a new thought way of redressing a punishing God. If I say this, the universe will get me. And I used to wear a rubber band on my wrist, and if I said something negative, I would flip it. Oh, don't have that thought. And so I had this aggressive relationship with my thoughts. But when I became curious, where did I get that thought? Who first taught me that? What do I feel, or how do I experience myself when I believe that thought? What thought might create more of what I want in my life? Which thought do I want to entertain? So maybe it's not about changing the thought. Maybe it's about, thank you for sharing. I've been having that thought for a long time. You have been a good friend to me, limiting thought. I love you, limiting thought. I'm ready to try this one. See, that's the gift of curiosity. That's the consciousness of curiosity. It isn't about blaming myself or thinking I'm doing it wrong, or I know I create reality, so I created this horrible experience. That's called metaphysical malpractice. What did I do to cause this? Instead, pause. What can I do to cure this? What can I do to heal this? What can I do today to bring more love into the world? How can I look at the world through a new lens? What are the infinite possibilities of this situation? How can I contribute? What can I offer? Living in the question is profoundly simple, and it's something that in some ways we all do. We might have an inner voice that's constantly asking questions. So maybe, as my friend Reverend Patricia Keel says, there are 3 steps to consciousness: awareness, awareness, and awareness, or 3 steps to spiritual transformation: awareness, awareness, and awareness. What am I aware of? What thoughts have I been entertaining? What do those thoughts create? Look how powerful I am that I keep creating this situation in my life over and over and over again. I think I have the message now. I'm ready to lovingly release this thought. And when you come back, I'm just going to say, hello, beautiful thought. I know you've been with me for so long, and I know you've been trying to help me. I've made a decision that I'm ready for a new thought. And if I'm not ready for a new thought, I'm at least ready for a new question. So in closing, what I want to say is I am so grateful to be here. I am so grateful to share this simple practice. I'm sure many of us have done something similar, but my actual practice of living in the question has changed my life in ways that I sometimes I'm not even aware of until I look back and say, oh my gosh, I used to think that the President of the United States had power over me. I used to think that what I heard on the news was going to affect my ability to be happy. I used to think that if someone was mad at me for something, that I must be a bad person. I remember that. I am so grateful to live in this new reality. And this new reality is available to each of us at every moment. I choose love. I choose peace. And I choose curiosity. So grateful to be with you. Peace and blessings, everyone.
Send my love over the mountains. I send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my love over the mountains. I send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my joy over the mountains. I send my joy over the sea. I send my joy into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my power over the ocean. I send my power over the sea. I send my power into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my peace over the mountains, and my peace over the sea. I send my peace into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my passion over the mountains. I send my passion over the sea. I send my passion into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my love over the mountains. I send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heavens, and it returns to me, and it returns to me. It returns to